Morning. What's going on? Mhm.
My God, I'm trying to talk. All right. I said I saw this. I saw the name of the space, and I was so into it. I was like, yes, I gotta let
Yeah,
you in here.
yeah. It's different every time. I just run my fingers across the screen. It's fun.
Yeah. How are you? Actually, I think that's a better question.
It's good. Just uploading some videos that I edited.
How'd that go? Did you enjoy doing it, or was
It's
it a burden?
it's it's kind of past the enjoyment phase.
Oh,
Right now, which is not bad. It's just like when the actual creative thinking work has been done, and you're just like, okay, I have to do this 20 times now. You know, because you've done
yeah.
the design pattern. So it's not good. It's not bad. It just um, I find that I'm best suited when asking to come up with something rather than to iterate on something.
Right.
You know,
Right. I know I don't do this very often, but I just want you to know how grateful I am that you're around. I feel like I ask a lot of you, and I'm annoying, and I sound like a needy person who doesn't really reciprocate or try to do anything in return. And I just want you to know if I can do anything to help you guys and it's in my ability to do it, I certainly will.
um, I'm remembering that I have to learn how to accept thank you. So I'm looking into your eyes and saying, "You're welcome, Sandra." Sorry,
Oh,
I looked away when I said it. Hold on. You're welcome, Sandra. It's an honor. Okay, I did
oh, gee.
it. But it's I mean, uh, it's so funny because when you say that, I consider there's a lot of people who would feel the exact opposite, and I'm actually okay with that. You know,
What do you mean? No, I don't
well,
understand.
well, you understand, like for anyone who exists, right? You have the people that love them, the people like them, the people that hate them, and often for all the same. It's all for the same reasons, right?
Yeah,
You
right.
know, so um, I like keep I like helping the people. I'm not even helping. I like talking to people um, that I get along with. And when I get along with people, I can't help. By virtue of what I do. It's like, well, all right, well, let's actually do something. Let's make it happen.
Yeah,
Right,
no, that I get it. Yeah, yeah.
right.
Well,
So it's kind of like it.
yeah, I
It
get what.
yeah. It's its own reward in a lot of ways.
But a lot of times it's not. Like the person you're trying to help turns into an
Uh
asshole.
huh.
That's
Uh huh.
like, and I think that when people are in a lot of pain or having their own personal problems, they lash out at people trying to help
Hmm.
them,
Hmm.
and they don't even realize sometimes they're doing it, or sometimes they know they're doing it, but they don't care because they're so emotional. That sort of
Yeah,
childish stuff. And I try very
I'm
hard.
sure I've been there too. Does that make sense? You
Oh
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And so it's like, I guess because I've lived so imperfectly, right? Uh, and I know I wasn't always like this,
What
right?
what do you mean? Tell me what you mean by that. I don't believe it, but you can tell me, and
Um,
are you telling me you're like a prick or something, or just like
uh,
mean, or
well, I know that, even though we get along, right? There are people who may interpret what I'm doing as like malicious in some way,
how would it
right?
be malicious? I don't.
But you understand, right? Like it. I would like to understand how they feel, but I know that no matter what I do, there are going to be people who interpret it good or bad.
Right.
And so I've kind of had to come to terms with the things I'm doing in my own head, right? So that it's almost like, I don't know. It's I'm thinking about it as we're talking. Um, I'm grateful to be able to help the people I love and care about.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like to me, it's like to me, I get the most value. You know what I mean? Right?
yeah. Some
In
people,
a lot of ways.
some very rare, special people are like the people who run Fantasy Island or the captain of the Love Boat. Like they're there as overseers to help people find their way to become the best version of them that they can be. And those people are like should be practically worshipped, in my opinion. I think the world of you and what you're doing, and I know you get a bunch of shit, and you don't deserve it, and I give you a bunch of shit sometimes, and I feel bad about it because I'm like, he didn't deserve that. I'm such an asshole. you know
No, I've
uh,
never felt anything but good vibes from you. Let's put it that
right.
way.
You and
Right?
Allie, you especially, and Allie too. Allie's been like a huge, like, there are times where Allie saves me from drowning completely. Like, she sends me.
You and me both.
She's just a goddess. I mean,
Oh yeah, 100%.
very sweet person. And so
Yeah.
anyway, I can't do anything for you right now, but if
No.
I'm ever like, if I ever am in a position to do something, I won't forget it. But you
Look,
know,
if I ever need an attorney, I'm gonna really need an attorney. You know what I mean? So,
well, yeah, I hope
right?
you don't, but yeah.
So, in my head, I'm like, you say that there might be a time
I'll,
give you a call
I'll
and be like,
hide I'll hide
all
the
right,
body
Sandra, this is
and the
my last
weapon.
call. It's the only call they're giving me.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah,
You never know.
I would hide I'd hide the weapon for you in my office. Yeah, I'd do that for
I
you.
feel like we have that relationship, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's not easy, and that's not easy to build.
Oh.
Yeah. What's going on, Pastor Pete? You saying
Just
you look like a Franciscan.
slowly unraveling Mike's secret plans here.
Ooh.
You look like a Franciscan.
Franciscan.
Yeah.
I should probably update it to the one that looks less like a face tat thing and more like the actual psychedelia thing, but I just can't be. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. You look like what would you look like? It's like a mix between like a fourth industrial musketeer, you know, because the mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, like D'Artagnan. I don't know how to say it. I tried to combine D'Artagnan and D'Artagnan and it didn't work out.
So
Hey,
I love
so did
I
you
love
send?
unmuting my mic just to laugh.
So did you sell that NFT? The auction?
It's I've put it on auction for a week, so it's sitting at 0.05 at the moment, which is nice. That's still like $120 Australian, which is
It's not bad.
fucking almost as much as I make in a day. Like, I mean, it's a bit less, but like, yeah, I mean, I can't complain if it sells for that. I'm happy, But like, it's still got a week. Oh, it's still got 5 days. Let's see if it goes any higher.
That's great. And you know what? People usually, in my opinion, they usually wait towards the end of the auction to bid. So, don't get discouraged. You already have a bid, but don't get discouraged if you don't see anything for a few days. Because I mean, now, do these auctions that they run, do they end when everyone stops bidding, or do they end at a time?
It's time based, just like
Okay.
any other.
Okay. Yeah. So you'll probably get some more action towards the end of the auction.
Yeah, I'll probably try and like do the like I hate doing promotional stuff and marketing, but like towards like the last day I'll probably like repost it and so like
Oh,
a couple days later, blah blah blah, that sort of thing.
Well,
Just because you got it.
keep in mind that like anything you put in that group, I'm gonna retweet, like, and comment. Right. So especially like if you want to put down a post, you could be like, all right, so in like 30 minutes from now, I'm gonna be laying down this post, and this is something that I want, that I really want to get out there. Right. And I'm sure a lot of people in that group would amplify it.
yeah, I need to be more consistent about retweeting things. Do you think there's a way where maybe I can make an announcement if I'm in a space and say, people, I mean, remember to retweet
Mhm.
what's here,
It's it you even saying those words makes me feel dirty. Does that make sense? Not the
Uh,
good one.
yeah, but
Right? It's like,
I'm a
can
dirty
you like
whore.
retweet and share? You know, and then no, and now we're these YouTube motherfuckers again, right? But I
Yeah.
think just by being like, if you put a link in the group and said this is important to me.
Oh, I was just going to promote anybody's link. I was going to say that I'm a dirty whore, and that I'll just remind everybody every time that I'm a dirty girl, and to like market everybody in the group by retweeting tweets about the group. But anyway, now I get your point. I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's I mean, we saw it happen with we. I mean, we've tried it. We tried it out when we first met Pete, right? When we you know uh, shared the video on Twitter from Instagram
Right.
that day. And so, like, I take for granted that I can see things that nobody else can see. Like, and I mean, I'm talking about when I looked at my LinkedIn, right? So, um, we we have people from Twitter that are exploring what we're doing, and I can tell because they're going from my Twitter to my LinkedIn, right?
Okay.
So I can see the flow of people. So I just put it in the group. You can take a look. So I have a bank, I have the enterprise, a car company, a college who's close by me, and Twitter. So I know they're paying attention. We might not be able to see them, but I know they're paying attention.
That's interesting. That's actually very interesting. Um, yeah, I think part of the reason where I think it'd be more effective now as opposed to earlier on when you guys first met me, like what you did there, is because now I've got a little bit of a following going on Twitter, which like organic growth outside of the Instagram following, which is interesting. But so anything that gets retweeted now is automatically going to get like pushed to them anyway because of the algorithm. So that's sort of
Uh-huh.
like the Twitter algorithm is really. I actually rate the way it works compared to like Instagram and all that. Instagram is so trash. I've actually almost stopped using it entirely.
There was a marketer that I talked to, and he said it's uncomfortable the degree to which we're at the mercy of the algorithm when it comes to content, right? Because you could be on the first page of Google today and never be seen again tomorrow.
Yeah, it's literally just
So,
a shit show with the
so
algorithm.
this curated curation is, I think, it almost has a power to shape our view of what's happening, because we assume that the Twitter you see is the Twitter I see, right, in our heads.
It is
I,
so not though.
yeah, but it's not, and we have a completely different experience. Like, I have, how many people am I following? I'm following 367. So I know for sure that it's going to be different than all of. Like, I wonder how many people I have in common with you,
Hmm. One thing that
right?
always gets me is when people like post about what's trending, and I'm like, dude, that's trending because it's marketed to you.
That is
Mm.
one of the things that I liked about Clubhouse and the back end, being able to check to see what your relationship was to people that you resonated with or were, of course, rebuffed and expelled by. So it was always good to, be able to weigh all that.
Rebuffed and expelled by? What did you do?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm sure.
you know, just my usual abnormal observations.
Now I want you to tell me so I can go do it too.
Oh.
That way I too can get thrown out of shit. I
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
you know, I don't know if it's a Mean Girls thing or what, but I'm just feeling so castigated and so. eh, I just really want to zip the sleeping bag up for a while, and I hope it's a weighted sleeping bag, right?
I know. Girl, the struggle is real. And if it were me, I would like throw it into like the middle of the Delaware River, because then I could just like join a whole like river of them, you know?
Well, you know, last night was the full moon, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I was up to my usual full moon shenanigans. But the way my shenanigans work, everybody gets what they deserve. Okay.
I love you already. Do tell.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, there's this saying here. Everybody thinks that this is such a sacred spot because of Taos Pueblo and, you know, the history and the beauty and the light and the art and on and on and on. But the thing is, and the counterbalance to that is a sort of glowering Saturnian, yet at the same time very loving and maternal idea of this mountain, this big mountain that lives up there. And people have made up all of this lore about the mountain. Well, you know, you move here and the mountain's going to chew you up and spit you out. So there's this whole. Um, it's kind of like I wrote a little blog post about this about I don't know 15 years ago. It's like a touch a truck competition. You know what those are? That's where there's a bunch of people and they're all standing and they have to keep their hand on the truck. And if they take their hand off the truck for any reason,
Yeah, like the Mr. Beast stuff. Yeah.
right. So they lose. So, you know, so it's like this measuring stick. How long have you stuck it out? Right? So there's these different gates. There's like 4 years. Like, oh, we haven't run you off yet. You know, we've tried.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and then there's the 10 year. Like, oh, you know, you're made of stronger stuff than I would have imagined. Kind of, you know, this is just your casual subspace radio, I guess, party wise. Um, and then there's 20 years, which is like, ooh, you know, hey. Um, and then beyond that, you know, when you get introduced, the thing that's hanging there is like, oh, how many bodies do you know where they're buried, right? And you know, cuidado, you better be careful because you don't know who this person is connected to because they've been able to hang here for this long. Because it's you know it's tough. It's economically tough. There's a lot of competition for jobs and um, you know, there's like essentially three circles, but there's really more bubbles. Uh,
Yikes.
and yeah, there's the Anglos, the white people, of which even, you know, the Jews and the very, very few black people who have managed to be here for any length of time. It's changing, you know, of course, always. But when I first moved here, there were like two black people in town at all. And they managed to hang for a good long period of time. And I know this one guy, he went to take care of his parents in Florida. And I kind of get the feeling he's a photographer. I feel like he really wants to come back because he was special here. He was a celebrity. You know, I mean, he's a really nice guy. But there's that, and there's the competition to be thought of as cool, and the art thing, which is mostly Anglos. You know, I'd say 90%.
So is this a small area, like population wise?
Yeah, I'm talking 10,000 people.
Oh,
Have you?
that's huge. That's huge. I mean, Daretown had 140 people in it like around it total, like.
Well, I can certainly get more remote than I am right now.
Oh yeah.
but there's this place like on the other side of the river where some people have really taken that to the extreme. There's these architectural things called earth ships that are supposed to be like zero carbon footprint, and you'd be able to do your whole deal, gray water system, cash system, all this kind of stuff. So people have tried to get more remote. And I certainly remember wanting to build my mesa that was only accessible via helicopter. So
Oh yeah.
these people, but so, I've hung here for 40 plus years, right? Well, no, not 40 plus, almost 40. Let's not get ahead of myself. Um, and I know where a lot of the bodies are buried, yet at the same time, I have also been at the mercy of this so-called energy recycle that happens, the mountain chewing you up and spitting you out. And what it really does is it shows you yourself, and you can either take it or you can't. And if you can't, you have to leave. So this is where the touch a truck thing comes in. So not a lot of people will yada yada at a party. Oh, I've been here 30 years. Well, it turns out 5 years in San Francisco, or the year abroad, or oh yeah, I remember now those years down in San Miguel Allende, right? Um, so you take, as far as I'm concerned, you take your hand off the truck, and you don't have your support team giving you sandwiches and a pecan, you're not going to win that truck.
Gotcha.
And I don't even know what this fucking truck is about. I don't even know what you win.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah. So, maybe it is connection, right? Maybe it is knowing all the people, that you need to glad hand to get your projects financed, or your learning subsidized, which, kind of in my case was the deal. But what you also have is you have people who are, they they see what's happening, and they want a piece, and they certainly can't have you around, right? Because they're like either obfuscators, people who like to make themselves absolutely indispensable, that action, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, my position has always been my job, whatever it is within the organization, is occupiable at any moment. And rather than being seen as a plus, it's always being seen as a weakness. And I just don't understand why they can't see the advantage of, being transparent. I just don't get.
Well, I guess it's the culture.
Yeah, probably so. And probably, the high competition for the attention of the guy with the checkbook, and, taking credit for all the ideas that seem good, and, stepping away from the ones that, turn out bad. Uh, but I don't know. I have run into this so many times. And I'm just going to be really honest with you guys, because, it's Sunday morning, and here we are in church. Uh, or, my name is Melody Elwell Romancito, and I'm an addict, an abuse addict,
Aw.
a work abuse addict. But no, I have experienced this so many times. I've wanted to ask Michael, as a recruiter, I'm sure you've seen these things before. And, you even said to me, based on the things that you've said here in the room, I think you should probably work by yourself, which I'm like, yeah, and I start thinking about it. I'm like, well, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, if you ever talk to Quinn, right? If you've ever heard Quinn talk before, right? He's a comedian, and that's his camera, and that's his gimbal, and that's his microphone, and that's his he's editing the videos. Why? Because he's being fucked so many times. He's like, all right, you know what? Fuck this. I'm gonna do it myself.
Right. So
Right?
I'm almost on social media this guy says, "Oh, I think I owe you more for the work you did in this Web 2.0 shit. It's really beautiful and it's better than anything we've ever had." And I'm like, "Oh, fuck you. Web 2.0 is what happens, when you just can't." Anyway, he said, "I owe you more money." And I'm of the mind, I'm like, dude, I can't even think about this in those terms. You tell me how badly you think you've screwed me, right? And I'll change my name and my PTR to Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, it does sound like that, doesn't it? Like,
But,
I owe
but
you
this
money
is,
because I'm screwing you right now.
but to me, this is a regular occurrence. I remember my buddy said, I face the same obstacles until I figure out a different way to deal with them. And I think about that a lot myself. When I'm struggling, I'm like, so this is probably like some thematic archetype that I'm experiencing. And so far, if I'm still experiencing it, then I have to figure out a way to deal with this and to foresee it. And or plan things in a way where I expect it. So even now with hiring people, like people say, "Hey, what do you think? Think we should hire the person?" I'm like, I think that person has earned 30 days in which to prove themselves. And if they prove themselves, maybe we give them a raise. But if you're asking me if this person will perform, God knows. They could
Yeah.
disappear tomorrow. They could disappear tomorrow, right? And I wouldn't be mad at it anymore.
Well,
I'm,
just because I feel, well, I feel like my work is excellent, but I think everybody likes to feel this way. But honestly, I know when I've done a shit job, and I'll own it. It's not or haven't really inhabited the job, and that's probably one of the biggest problems that I have, is that I fully own it and inhabit it, whether that's really in the job description or what I'm being compensated for or not.
yeah. I mean, there's a challenge, though, and every middle manager faces it, where you have just enough accountability to get fired, but not enough to get anything done.
Yeah, I called it having responsibility and no authority.
Yeah, because in any decision making pattern that happens, there's someone who's responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, every, and I've seen this with projects too, where people don't believe in something. I'll tell you a quick story. So we did the Twitter Spaces theme song, right? Spooky voiced it, PAQ produced it, and I did the music video. There was a lot of people who thought it was going to fail and said, "Hey, can you remove me from the video?" I'm like, "Sure." And then a bunch of people said, "Hey, can you remove me from the video?" I'm like, "Sure." And actually, so many people came to remove themselves from the video that Spooky had to redo the lyrics. And then all of a sudden, it gets picked up by Twitter, and now everyone's your best friend again. So when you see that, it's like, oh, you don't even know why you're being nice to me now. You don't even see it.
Right.
Yesterday you were nowhere to be found. Today it's like all high fives. So it's
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean, it really bothered me that the shitstorm that started in Discord was someone else, really, and somehow her words got attributed to me as being the Kuchwaffel. That's Yiddish for kitchen spoon. So, but then in the minutes of the meeting, just general understandings about logo, branding, symbols, and all this kind of stuff. She's outlining as the person who brought that to the table. And so I'm just
right.
like, for fuck's sake, and because of my need to really pin people down, I've studied body language, and mainly I'm discovering, because I just need all these cues to make sure that I understand what's going on, because
Well, I mean, at a certain level, it's a skill game. And then after a certain level, it's a skill and politics game.
right,
And,
or it's
you
a
know,
fucking instrument. It's just someone comes at you with a sledgehammer and you weren't expecting it. But you know,
Yeah.
when I said, you know, that I worked for this major, you know, ad company here in this little town, and worked for her for 2 years and did some fairly high tech stuff, and I'm just like, this is my fucking last card, girls.
Well,
You
also too,
know,
like,
I put that down, and they did the little shoulder turn away from me and the smirk exchange.
yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that, you know, the last card that I was saving was actually, you know, the most detrimental card that I possibly could have had in my hand. And, you know, just the fact that they would do that and not think that I would see it, it's just beyond me how this happens. And it's no wonder that, you know, I don't want
I
to meet
mean,
people in
if,
public.
if if talented people were treated well, there wouldn't be any need for a recruiter, right? Because nobody would ever leave their job.
Yeah.
But it turns out that because not everyone is as talented, like there's two ways to build this tallest building. You can build it or tear everyone else's down. And so when I see people trying to tear down things, um, I don't see them as necessarily evil. I see themselves using the skills that are available to them today, you know, and everyone has a way of washing their sins. Right.
Right. And so, you know, with that in mind, I've waded in the water, right? I've gone through the baptism, fire or water, however you want to look at it. At this point in my career, I came out of retirement to do this, and I was hoping to have a swan song, right? One last little la la in my portfolio, you know, that was community oriented and blah blah blah. And I know that everything is going to get torn down as soon as I hand off. And it just feels so, yeah. It just
Yeah.
really, I really feel like I have been fucked over badly. And it's a really ugly feeling, and I need to wash myself of it. I don't know whether I need to try to keep pursuing, excuse me, more work to justify the stupid fucking investment I made,
Mm.
you know, or whether I should just roll it up, roll up the tent and move on.
Well, you never know how bad luck keeps you from experiencing worse luck, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And so, you know,
Oh, that's a Yiddish experience expression for sure. Well,
yeah, right. So, look, if I remember I had a buddy I was talking to, and we were trying to get a friend nominated for this, that, or the other, and I was complaining to him that the people weren't necessarily receptive. And after like about 10 minutes, he was like, "Yo, Mike, if these people are such pieces of shit, why the fuck do you want to have anything to do with them?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a good point," and I I put that down, right? Because it was like, you know what? I'm trying to get up to the top of a ladder that I don't even want to be on top of. So let me just, jump off while I'm on the second rung. Just do it. I'd rather do something myself than have good work be thrown out by idiots.
well, I appreciate that. That's a wonderful observation, and I needed to hear it because right now I'm feeling a little
I'm
broken.
not
And
happy about it, right? I'm not happy about having to, not having, but I'm not necessarily happy about a lot of the things I say. Does that make sense? If I say something, it's not that I'm like, "Yo, isn't it amazing how we can't trust anyone?" And right, I'm just saying, since we can't trust anyone as much as we would like to, how might we transform this risk? Because it's going to keep on presenting itself to us.
right, so I'm at a place in just understanding my own neurodivergency, and I'm not gonna even go about getting it diagnosed. It just is not going to serve me. Everybody already thinks I'm fucking weird.
Right.
So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think the one thing that ties us together is that we all have a touch of the tism or whatever the fuck you want to call it, right?
Yeah. You know? Yeah.
Boy, thank you for that too.
Yeah, I did an online test for autism and I scored 30 and I was like, oh, I wonder what the mark is. And it was like 20. And I'm like, ah, fuck. All right. So here
I
we
think I
are.
might have taken the same one and I came out at 40. So yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, because I've asked Ali, so am I on the spectrum? Do I have autism or am I a psychopath or a sociopath? We talk about that a lot.
You and your sweet wife. My goodness. Yeah. Well, my husband's been very accepting of it. There's a joke. There's a native comedian, and native humor is so dry. So the joke goes like this: this kid has come home to visit. He's gone to college. He's got his PhD and stuff, and he sees his grandma across the river, and he's waving because he hasn't seen her yet. He hasn't stopped by her house, and so he's waving. He says, "Hey, Grandma, I got my PhD." And she yells across the river, "So why are you coming back here with those white man diseases?" Right?
That's cool. That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to tell you something, and I don't, for what it's worth. I spent I spent a lot of time, perhaps more than I should have, becoming angry or resentful because I felt like I wasn't getting like praise or notice like I should have. And to give you an example, I started a public interest law auction at my law school, and I was flat out told, "You will never succeed at this. It will fail. We are a commuter college," which is true. Rutgers Camden is a commuter college because it's Camden, right? But they
Mhm.
flat out, yeah. So they flat out told me it will never ever work. Like the administration told me this, and they said, "But if you and the Rutgers Association for Public Interest Law want to go ahead with this stupid thing, simply because Fordham has a very successful one, and that's the one I wanted to model it off of." So they gave me a bunch of shit, and then they said, "Yeah, go ahead." And I asked a few professors, like, if they would donate something silly or something important, whatever it may be. And the first three that I talked to were like, "Oh no, I don't get involved in stuff like this because I don't I don't want to be involved in anything in a community that might show me in a bad light." And I'm like, well, how could helping like public interest law scholarship funds for law students to be able to spend this summer, working for a public interest law group, for food security or against the death penalty, stuff like that. How is that a bad thing? Like, how does that, and, first three people were like, made me very dispirited. And it was a real tough haul. And then I hit the first person who's like, hell yeah, I'm doing this. And I'll tell you what, like I had a professor, his name was Professor Clark, and they called him Santa Clark because he would give like everybody really good grades. So it was like a mad rush to sign up for his classes if you wanted to up your GPA. But he donated a run around what was the old RCA Nipper building in Camden. Well, at the time, this is before they developed it. It was a shit show. Like if you're jogging in that area, you're fucking running for your life. But he's from New Zealand, and apparently in New Zealand they're oblivious. So he's like, yeah, well, every day I run around, and he's like the only like white dude for like miles, and the jail is like a block away from the from the RCA pickle building. So he does this run every day. He runs around that area, and then he goes to the law school, gets a shower in his office, and then does his classes. And I'm like, well, it's a start. Okay. So I put that on the list. And then I get a call from West. There are bar exam courses. There's one by Westlaw, one by Barbary. And Westlaw calls me and they're very angry. And I'm like, what is wrong? And they're like, well, we hear that Barbary's giving you three bar review courses to sell at your auction, and you didn't even ask us. And I'm like, well, I didn't know this was happening, but so I smoothed it over, and so I got 3 bar exam courses, which are very expensive, from both of these um, you know organizations. And the minute that started getting around the school, then everything went bananas. And we held it in one of the largest auditoriums at the school, and it was jam packed, and the bidding was crazy. Like it was a huge success. Everybody's clapping me on the back for, like, the first day. And we did it next year, and it was even bigger. And then I graduate, and the person that took it over moved it off campus. I helped a little bit with that, and basically the school took it over at that point, and it was like I never existed. Like, I get a call like 2 years later from the public interest law group at Rutgers, and they're asking me to donate something, and they had no idea that I had actually started that auction at the school. Like, I was memory hold from the whole thing, because they liked the PR from it and how good it looked, and they just totally. But my perspective on that is, have you done something inherently beautiful or good or just? And does does it really matter? Is it really that important that you're just going to look at it in a way that colors where it's going after you're gone? And if you aren't, in the long run, I mean, everybody gets resentful, but in the long run, if you aren't willing to let something go and let it grow on its own, and just watch it evolve, and a good way or a bad way, you can't really have any control over that. But it's something, in a way, that anytime I get involved in a project or create something, who knows what's going to happen with it. I just hope it's the right and a good thing, and I go into it thinking, okay, well, there's a very high likelihood that I'm going to feel my ego is going to get bruised here. So I would just perhaps ask you to kind of maybe change your perspective a little bit, and it will help you feel a little bit better about things. And this interest law auction, I think, I don't know what's happened to it. I think it's still ongoing. So that's, in my opinion, that's a good thing, even though no one even knows I started it or it existed from what I did with it. So
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, and I certainly understand, and I was hoping to be able to actually walk away from it with that uh, actually as a goal. But the way it's unwound, and so quickly and so soon, with the introduction of particular energies or chemicals, the pH in the pool changes, whatever. I do know that for myself, I've gotten like it's like an alert that when the minute I think that I'm going to be singled out and praised for any of my efforts in any project, regardless of what it is, in the long time that I've been here, the minute I feel like I'm going to get recognition and praise for that work and celebrate it in that way, that's about the time that the townsfolk are organizing to carry me on their shoulders to the edge of town to set me on fire. And I don't know what causes that particular way the fractal unravels. It would be great. I just don't know if
well,
at
can
the
I ask you a
point.
quick question? Can I
Sure.
ask you- you've been with them for many, many years, right?
No. I started this particular project in April.
Right. But you've been
I
in the
have been.
town for a long time.
No, I haven't. What happened is that this guy has wanted to commission me to do something for him. He's seen me as somebody that he would like to throw some money to, and that's really cool. I tried to sell him one of my larger paintings, which goes for about $8,000. So we're talking low ball here, but I would get half of that. It would be a definite life changer, with the current events after my daughter having lived here for a while. So I'm retired. right? I've been retired. I've been painting. It's all good. Well, this guy gets a stick and he pokes me. I'm just starting to experiment with VR and look around just from an artist's point of view because I'm a digital artist since the mid 80s and I really have wanted a piece of this for all this time and finally the technology is within my reach. So as I'm posting my little wins on Facebook that nobody here in, in Cowboy Town can relate to, he sees it as an opportunity to um, have me design a space for his funky live music oriented 501c3. And it's all good. I'm working with this one guy just for this few short months, and it's decent money, and it gives me an opportunity to have a little cherry piece for my portfolio and maybe coax out a few more $1,000 before I completely roll back and live on Social Security and my painting money. But, I mean, Jesus, I've only got so many hours in the day and so many brain cells. And I'm telling you, writing copy is a whole different brain set than moving the vast steel girders and,
Right. Yep.
so forth of building a world and an environment and an experience that I was just asking somebody else to do that and give it to me. And so that's how this other chemical agent got introduced into this project that had been going so smoothly. And
I
so
like.
I was just asking the guy to be honest with all of us. Tell us how it works. Tell us who's in charge.
It's a challenge though, because if you ask a software developer how long a software project is going to take, they're going to tell you it takes as long as it takes me to pay off my mortgage. You know what I mean? And you can't blame them for that, right?
Sure, but I can see the chair warmers. I see these grant writer chair warmers everywhere. And I'm not into it. I'm not into it. I am not into creating bullshit just to keep my chair warm.
Well, I think it's and that's kind of why I said, you know what? I think you'd get a lot more done faster or something smaller done quicker than waiting for, people who don't have a clue to clue in, right? So they're never going to
Right.
get it,
Right, because this has been the deal. When I worked for the newspaper and I was, the copy editor and web editor, I suggested that we make a media center. Now this is 2006, right? And granted, digital video quality was pretty bad, but it's come a long way, and the system is there. The system is there. They're using the same channel I built for them, but I had to wait. I had to wait for 3 months for a board of directors to make a decision, and then for the publisher to make the decision, and to give me free reign to build something which could have already had 3 months worth of traction.
Yeah, I'm done
Yeah,
asking for
had to
permission.
wait for an answer for somebody. So yeah, but I, I would have to say that I have been laboring alone with your Together Alone thing for so long. It's just nice to run into other people who understand what I'm talking about and share this experience and also want to work with each other. They want to work with each other. They are excited. They don't have to be coerced and cajoled into pressing play for somebody else's music.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. Um, you know, anytime other people get involved, especially if they're competitive or they feel like they're protecting like their turf, or they think they own a human being that you're working for, whatever it may be. I mean, you're going to run into people who have different interests than yours. And, if sometimes the nice guy finishes last cliche is true. And I guess you kind of have to decide whether that's something you're willing to live with and embrace and transcend ego, regardless of how badly it hurts. I struggle with that. But I'm learning to kind of like let the flow of the universe, like I'm holding on to like this raft and I can't swim, but I'm never going to be able to swim if I don't fucking let go and try. So I think I'm getting a little, I'm trying to tread water a little bit in the shallow end. I don't know. But anyway, I'm trying, and you'll never know if you don't get out there and just, do it and not give a shit whether someone takes advantage of you or this person gets credit and you don't. It's like, to thine own self be true. So I don't know. It sounds awful and completely not helpful, but I'm trying to tell you what I think the most helpful course of action is to actually just don't give a shit and do whatever the fuck you
Yeah.
want and do it for the art.
That's where I'm at. I burned some candles last night. It's a very helpful symbol for me for clarity and everybody to be happy and to walk away happy with the spoils, whatever they think those spoils are. And
Although
so,
there's voodoo dolls, you can get some pins.
well, I've been wandering in this zone for a long time, and I know exactly what is allowed and what should be you should be cautious about, and through my own experience too. But I appreciate you all giving me the time to vent, and I'm gonna mute and then listen to you all because I love your voices so much.
Oh, thank you. Actually, Peter, I wanted to ask you if you might spend, or Mike, whoever feels like the burden of wanting to hear questions and has the time, probably neither of you. I wanted to ask you guys about the process of choosing something to be like an NFT in terms of its potential for selling, like how commercial, how likely it is to sell, whether there are tools that might help artists do that in advance so that that can be taken into account while performing the art. And then the second question is, whether maybe someone can describe the process and procedure for either posting it on Tezos, OpenSea, or is there a tool that will allow me to post it both places simultaneously? So can anybody talk to me about that later or now or however?
I have no idea. I wish I did. That would make my life easier.
Well, what do you? Oh, you have something up on? Is it OpenSea?
Oh yeah, OpenSea is easy to list on, but the rest of the part of the questions were like,
Okay, yeah, I
sort of stuff. Like, it'd be nice to have an idea of how to target the audience. Sorry, not the audience. Well, yeah, the audience, but how to target the market of like insights and stuff. But I guess that just takes sort of it's the same as anything. You observe what the market's doing. You observe where people are putting their money. If you want to go about it that way, there's probably tools for it. I think.
Well, for example, let me ask you something. Like somebody just sold out allegedly, okay? Somebody says that they just sold out of their abstracts, like they did abstract designs, and I painted abstracts for years, and then when I bought my antique textile collection, since the companies no longer exist, I own the intellectual property for the art. So I own that. And, what between my abstract art on my own and the prints that I'm altering into digital art, I began to wonder if there would be even a market for like abstract art. And some people are apparently doing well, but I would have to take their word for it. Like, how do I actually analyze what they're doing to see if what they're telling me is truthful?
Okay, so you can look at their you still won't know for sure because by all means they could set up fake accounts to buy things and whatever, but you can look at their collections on OpenSea or Tezos, and usually it shows like how many people actually own an item in the collection, and it shows like, you know, the last sale price and things like that. So you can actually get some insight there into whether or not they really are selling stuff. Um, you know, if you follow them on Twitter and stuff like that, you tend to notice what they do, how they market themselves, the sort of interactions they have. Part of me is getting late here.
Oh, yeah.
So I suppose that's how you sort of do that diligence. But yeah, as for like selling it yourself, like I'm like, what the fuck do I do here? And I'm realizing the amount of time I need to spend on Twitter. Not that I don't already, but like the amount of time I need to spend on Twitter engaging and like jumping into different spaces and just having communications just to like get one piece to sell. I'm sort of wondering if it's worth it.
Well,
It probably like, but
sorry.
no.
Would that piece had gotten a bid on it anyway, or it was something like, hey, I saw you in this space and therefore I bid?
Honestly, I put it up and I got a bid from a random that I don't even know, and then they reached out to me and asked about a commission. So unpredictable.
But I mean, from what you're saying, you know, first of all, I think you undersell yourself and you're too fucking humble. So I want to kick you in the head, but you know, and just be like, dude, are you fucking kidding me right now? You know, I mean, you know, you're on a roll here. Don't like trip over your own fucking feet. You know, I'll tell you what. I'll go and I'll put boobs on your Twitter feed, and maybe that will attract like I don't know, two randomly weird, strange people that will buy your shit. I don't know. Anyway, don't sell yourself short. I mean, I've seen your stuff. It's great. You know, I'm trying to figure out how much time, but I agree. I'm trying to figure out for myself, like how much time do I want to spend doing, because obviously there's a limited time in the day. I'm a short sleeper, so I can work. As long as I get 3 hours of sleep, I can, you know, I can grind. Uh, 4 is better. After 4 hours, I'm kind of like fiddling around and waiting for normal people to get up so I don't like, like wake everybody else up. But anyway, you know, but so I can do things, I can do a variety of things, and once I get into a flow, I'm fine. You know, just check on me next year. I'll be doing the same shit. But you know, I'm trying to choose where my time, you know, I'm 50. So where do I best choose to spend time, and how can I make money quickly? Because I'm going to like lose my apartment in about 30 days. I'm basically, I have just enough money left now to be able to like pack my things in storage and like live in my car. So I need to like, you know, really kick my own ass here. So I'm trying to decide, you know, is it worth my time to get some? I mean, I do my stuff is fucking disturbing. In case you haven't noticed, some of the abstracts that I've done with Wombo are just, you know, they evoke some probably very disturbing feelings when a person looks at them. But I do have other things that are um, more developed, like show more of a, you know, artsy bent, I guess. Um, so, you know, I'm considering, is that something I want to spend time on? Because realistically, that is not something that is going to save my ass. Or, you know, do I want to concentrate on what I know is going to eventually earn, earn money, which is like, I'll put things up on eBay, antiques and textiles and things like that. Or, I mean, I'm trying to figure out like, because right now I'm just so anxious about fucking my whole life up that I'm having a hard time focusing. So that's why I was asking you the art questions, Peter, because I'm trying to pick your brain about analyzing time versus output.
Well, I suppose if you put it this way, you've got nothing to lose by minting things on OpenSea, lazy minting things on OpenSea, because you can do it for free. You don't have to invest any money in it.
Okay.
You can. It's just a matter of putting yourself out there with it. I mean, it's not going to ruin your life if you do it. So
Yeah.
it's like you might as well do it. You might as well have a try. I mean, that's my only issue with the NFT thing is like it's so saturated with these like profile picture like collections and things like that. There's so much noise in the market that I'm trying to work out how to stand out as an artist that's never sold anything in my life. Like I have never made a sale in my life. You know, so that's not even art. That's just like anything. I've never been a salesperson and I don't do that sort of stuff. So I have no idea how to approach it at all to begin with. So that's kind of like, that's why I set myself that little challenge this weekend where I was like, all right, I'm going to just like sell one thing, just make it happen, you know? And by all means, like, I mean, it's got 2 bids. So it's like, I feel like I achieved my goal and that's nice. But like, yeah, it's still, you know, some people make crazy money. I know that one dude, and I hate telling these stories because it's like, part of me is jealous because I'm like, fuck, like, how do I make that kind of money? But this dude did a performance art piece, apparently. Like, it's just a Twitter thing. It's just some artist on Twitter. He put up this little animation, like a looping GIF with like a blue background, and it's just a skull, or 3 skulls, but like one's faded in, one's clear, one's fading out, whatever. And it's like the only part of it that's animated is just like a noise pattern on top. He sold it for I think it was 200 Ethereum,
Wow. What was
which
its
is
name?
$500,000. And then the person that bought it burnt it, as in they dumped it into a wallet that's like inaccessible.
Why?
Performance art, apparently. Sounds
Oh,
like to me.
it sounds like kind of bullshit, like a stunt of some sort. I don't know, but
Yeah, well,
yeah,
that's it. They're all
funny.
stunning. But
Yeah.
so it's not just profile pictures that sell as NFTs, or like it's not just those things. It's just that there is a lot of those NFT projects and that kind of noise that you got to sort of try to, I guess, look past. You know, if you just put stuff up there and, you know, put it out as, hey, I'm selling this as an NFT, like get people like, they, you know, if people like it, they'll retweet it, they'll look at it. Hopefully someone comes along and buys it. I mean, that's kind of all you can do, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of. I wish I knew the secret sauce, the magic formula to it, because fuck, I could make some money right now. If you know, I need it.
Yeah, because I mean, I formulated an like an algorithm for determining when a book within a certain ranking on Amazon will sell. And then I formulated a margin for buying the proper ISBN number on eBay and then reselling it on Amazon. And the margin was generally like 5 times. So if I paid $5 for the book, let's say, I would have had to have made at least net 20 or 25 off it. And I was able to do that for quite a few years. And then other people like figured it out. And then, of course, it became, if I had kept at it, I probably could have refined it, but I was just so fucking burnt out. And my partner was embezzling from me. So that didn't help. So I'm thinking, is there the same sort of way? Because the way I was able to do that was Amazon, they have rankings for books, meaning like if, there's a book by John Stewart in the #1 slot, that means everybody's buying that book the fastest and in most volume. Because that's how they determine the ranking for a book. So 1 being the best, 7,775,000 being like, this thing is never going to fucking sell. And I figured out that, believe it or not, if your book is ranked somewhere in the 2 million range, it's probably going to sell within half a year to a year about. It's just long tail. So, even pre-ISBN number books, I was starting to get into because I could use what's called an LCCN number. And I'd run that algorithm. I have my ex program it. It took me a year to convince him to even like make it for me. And he was angry that he had to do it because he couldn't like visualize what I'm like, look, no matter you're gonna make money off this, trust me. And it took me a long time. But anyway, once the money started coming in, all of a sudden he's like real happy about it. I was happy too, don't get me wrong. But what I'm trying to say is if there's a commonality on OpenSea or anywhere else where there's like a ranking involved, where someone says, okay, this artist is number 3. And even if that ranking changes, it's dynamic, it's going to change over time. As long as that ranking is within a certain number, like number 1 to 2 million, I know that regardless of what else happens, that item is going to move, or that artist would move within a certain, it's going to move within a certain amount of time. So, because that has worked for me on Amazon for years. The only reason I left the whole Amazon thing, well, there was a variety. It wasn't because what I was doing stopped working. I'll put it to you that way. Just personal reasons, really. But so I'm trying to think about, and Peter, maybe you've seen something, or anybody else, if you've seen a way, is there some sort of dynamic ranking for NFTs out there along the lines of like an Amazon ranking system? Any ideas? Maybe not. I mean, maybe not.
OpenSea show the top collections over the last 24 hours. They've got a whole stats page, rankings, activity,
Total volume, all that kind of stuff.
It's pretty much just like crypto in a way.
Well, it would have to be something that gives me more information. Like 24 hours is nice, but like
You just said 7 days, 30 days, all time. I mean, they're pretty good with all their stats these days.
Because if I can get something that goes back, I think when we did rankings, we looked at, it depended on the time of year. But usually for rankings, if it was the busiest quarter of the year, the rankings that I would use would actually span further out. So because the velocity of the sale of the books in that particular quarter is faster, so the rankings relative to what they are in summer are different because of the velocity. So, if I can get enough information, like, if I get enough data that shows me reliability, then, and if I see an NFT that has been going up and down, but it's reliable, like let's say in March, it sold for $15, and then in April, someone flipped it for 30, and then it went back down and went back up again. Once you start seeing a trend over the course of a year, especially with books, because people go back to school, right? I'm wondering if that sort of thing can be applied to NFTs, because if it can, that takes a lot of guesswork out of flipping, out of the arbitrage.
Yeah, I'll send some links through in the Syndicate chat.
And that in and of itself may be a project, like generating like a sales platform that will help people determine that. I'm sure it's got to be out there already, but maybe if it's more mechanized, I guess that could be something. Does anyone have any idea what I mean? Do you guys understand, or am I just sounding like an idiot?
Peter DM some examples. Maybe you can see if that fits, or if they're missing any thing. He posted Crypto Slam.
Mike, do you think that have you heard of that before with NFTs, or do you think that's something that make money? Or
to be honest with you, like, any idea that we come up with has already been done and will be done in the future, but will not be done by us. And us is the secret sauce, because nobody's going to do it like the way we do it. Like, I always go back to the Zoom example. Zoom shouldn't exist. Like, we already had Skype. We already had like the Google Chats. But somebody had enough gumption to say, yeah, I know all of the biggest companies in the world are doing this, but we're going to do it a bit differently. And I imagine they got laughed out of most of the rooms that they came in, because they were essentially being viewed as a copy and paste of another idea done by a FANG. And who wants to compete direct with a FANG? If Zoom can figure it out, I think there's more opportunity for us, because nobody's going to do it like we do it. Nobody. By definition.
And I guess the second thing it could be used for is using an NFT as collateral, because if you know the typical life cycle of when it's going, when, like, let's say it's a Bored Ape, and there should be enough information on Bored Ape in terms of, the marketplace to make some sort of analysis of whether it should be I mean, I'm just picking as an example. There's other
Hmm.
projects, but maybe that would be a factor in, like, the out whatever is supplied as the algorithm, or the program would be used as a factor in determining whether it's loan worthy as collateral.
Yeah, I think about the stability of an asset being related to its ability to be used as collateral.
Right.
What do you think? Right?
Yes.
Because if I have an NFT that's worth $10 million and it's worth nothing tomorrow, then is that still collateral?
I think it is, if there's a history of data that shows that it is. Like,
Right. So there's
yeah,
some previous performance that has to exist for a certain number of time periods, right?
yeah.
Hmm.
That same thing. Does this already exist? I mean, I would imagine.
I'm sure anything that we think of already exists, right? And my professor told me that 20 years ago. He's like, there's 8 billion people on the planet. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. So what gives you the absolute hubris to believe that you're doing this first? Yeah, it's a good point. And
Well,
now, does that mean you couldn't do it? No, but you have to do it recognizing that, you know, um, there are other people on the planet. I often find that the Japanese authored NFT articles are like really like levels better than anything I ever read in English.
why do you say
Right?
that?
Oh, I just my experience reading the articles. I'll put one to the top.
But I mean, what are better? What's better about them than any than?
Oh, because the journalists can code.
Okay. But I
So, for
mean,
example,
yeah.
yeah. So when you look at their articles, they're like, you know what? I was thinking about, going down the NFT rabbit hole, and then they start creating like dynamic, fucking, like dynamic NFTs, and then they get kicked off of OpenSea, and it's like, hey, how did I get kicked off of OpenSea? I thought this was supposed to be decentralized,
Why
right?
would it be off?
And well, it's just one of those things where it's like, because they can code, they can come up with ideas and then test those ideas themselves. So it's like, hey, we want to test this idea, so we developed our own project, and I'm going to put it to the top.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So when you read through it, and even if you're listening to this right now, it won't take you too long. I've just put it to the top. It's called My First Impression of Web3, and I translated it from Japanese to English. And
Oh,
so he starts by giving a bit of a background. Remember when F gas fees were less than 2 cents? Pepperidge Farm remembers, right? It was really funny. And so he's like, all right, so now that we have some baseline, let's make some apps. I created an app called First Derivative that allows you to create, discover, exchange NFT derivatives that are tied to the underlying NFT, as well as financial derivatives that are tied. So like he goes from, okay, so this is the background. Okay, now let's build shit. All right, so I tried building this, and well, what I built is a dynamic NFT that shows up like a piece of shit in your wallet, like an image on Rarible, and on a different it looks like a different image on OpenSea. I was like, oh fuck! You mean you can create an NFT that looks different depending on which wallet it's on? I'm not sure if they intended that. And then afterwards, it's like when he gets kicked off of OpenSea, the item disappears, and he's like, okay, so hold on. Not only can you be kicked off of OpenSea, but when you are, your ownership over that NFT is also deleted,
wow.
right? And I was like, whoa, this is what happens when the journalists can code, right? So when I read that, I was just, yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. Well, I've seen those 3D billboards. It would be cool to kind of have like a 3D NFT where you're let's say it's like a cat, so you can watch like your NFT jump from one of your NFTs to another one. Is that too stupid, or it does sound dumb, doesn't it? I don't know what I'm saying.
No, it's anything worth doing is going to seem stupid, I think. You know what I mean? Like, just think about all of the music that ended up becoming hits that people were like, people really going to like this? Like, I remember even with Eminem, when Eminem came out with My Name Is, that was like the weirdest song in hip hop that I ever heard in my life, right? And I'm sure a lot of people in the studio was like, is this a hit or are we destroying this person's career? And it ended up, blowing up. But, they had they had either the belief for themselves or the blinders on enough to do something that might have been extremely embarrassing to them. I think in a lot of cases, what we're trying to do is save ourselves embarrassment. And that's difficult to do when we publish. You have to risk that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you are putting yourself out there,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of, no, that could be. Yeah.
Yeah, my biggest thing is like, there's another part of the experiment in my head where it's like, I wonder what would happen if we started supporting women in the community. Because I don't think that's being done.
What do you
And
mean?
I think when I work with a lot of women, right? And I always have, right? And so I've kind of found them a lot easier to work with than guys. And maybe that's something to do with me, right? But many of the people I work with are women. Like in Toronto, I'm working with Caravana. And I think 80 to 90% of the executive team are women, right? And in a lot of ways, that's why we can get stuff done quickly. Like even last year, I had we did Women on Calypso Symposium. Just us with a Zoom and a record button. And now that Roma Spencer is doing a residency at the University of Toronto, they're doing the Women of Calypso Symposium at the University of Toronto, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I can see what happens when really... I can see what happens. I see how things are managed differently when a woman is in charge, right? Doesn't happen every time, but I found as I get older, I butt heads with a lot of guys. And I think it's for obvious reasons, right? They just haven't done their homework. So when they come in here with their little homework, it's like, yeah, it's not going to fly. We had these conversations in 2016. If you don't believe me, look at my tweets, right? Just look up from : at attract funding until : 2017-0101. And you're going to see all of these things are boring conversations because we've had them already. Right? And so that's why, most guys get their panties in a bunch when they talk to me. But with women, it's like, first of all, they're willing to be humble, but they also see that if they don't do it, something really bad could happen to their community. And I don't, you know what I mean? Like they actually have a reason. Like when I hear Melody coming out of retirement, she's not coming out of retirement necessarily to have fun. There's something, she's not done doing stuff. She might be retired, but she's not done with her life.
Right. Yeah. Well, hey, grandma I mean, she got started like in her 80s, or I mean, she was, I mean, I'm not going to let age stop me from doing something that, but it may be practical too, and maybe because I don't have a choice. I don't have any savings or anything. I came down here on thinking that things were, I don't know. Anyway, so moving on. What do you mean by support? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, for example, like my wife is smarter than I am, and I know that. And it's not something I'm intimidated by, right? I'm proud of it, right? So it's like, even in my own life, right? Maybe it's the way I construct my own life is the way I look at this stuff, right?
Right.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm 39. I've tried to play in other people's reindeer games with very little success, right? And even when I was playing my own game, I found that anything that I did with guys, it's almost like with guys, I'm waiting for that moment where they say, "Hey, Mike, I fucking hate you," right? And you're a piece of shit. And you know what I mean? You know when you're kind of just waiting for that shoe to drop, and you're just
Yeah.
looking at your watch and be like, "I wonder how long it is." Oh, there it is. There's the train, right on time. Right? So I'm just trying to approach things with a different hypothesis, and I find that for whatever reason with women, I can get things done a lot quicker. Like I was on the phone with Roma last night. I'm like, all right, Roma, what's the title? Okay, what's the subtitle? Okay, let's write the about. Okay, so who are the speakers? All right, so who are the musical performers? Okay, so I typed everything out. What do you think? Version 2, version 3. Okay, we're done? Great. All right, we'll talk to you more. All right. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of conversation would take 3 months with some people.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, I can see where it's maybe. I don't mean to sound sexist, but maybe it's a testosterone, ego-driven. You know, I have to scent mark every little thing to prove that I produce something for my work.
It's also, keep in mind too that I'm West Indian, right? And so when I deal with certain cultures, they don't necessarily look at the value I provide, let's say. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
there's this other aspect of it too, where, you know, a lot of the people who have a lot of power have never been talked back to by someone with my skin color before. And I'll embarrass someone because I'm 39, so I don't care. Right? So before I would like tiptoe around it. Now I'll embarrass a motherfucker. I don't care what kind of suit you have on. And I'll enjoy it. And I'll move on. So it's kind of one of those things where, you know, some people appreciate that energy, and some people, because they want to be the smartest person in the room, they're not willing to do it. They're not willing to humble themselves. Right?
Right.
If their startup doesn't allow them to hold on to their ego, they'll have the startup fail so they can hold on to it. That's what I see.
That amazes me because I mean, I'm willing to mortify myself for
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm willing to kind of stick my neck out. I think I've done that, but maybe even if it's like being unaware of doing that, but you know, I think that if it's a project worth doing, then
Yes.
be there for it, you know, like just be that entity, you know. And if you're not, if you're going to half-ass it and you don't really, like, for example, I'll give you a great example. This NFT algorithm thing that I've been kind of tossing around in my brain for, I know that there's stuff out there probably, and that's one of the reasons why I've kind of like put it off, and you know, probably to my detriment, but it doesn't like move me that much. It's like, yeah, that you know, I that could probably work, but do I give a shit, you know? And so,
Yeah. Do
yeah,
I give it more than just a thought experiment? I
right,
mean,
right,
I always ask myself, like, is there a way we can test this out without writing a single line of code?
exactly, yeah,
Right? So it's like if we want an algorithm to do X, well, let's pretend that we're the algorithm. And we're going to pick the top 10 NFT projects, and we're going to call it the top 10 NFT projects today. And we just use a bunch of sites and do some correlation, right? And add in our art aesthetic, right? And some details on the founders. And then we publish the site. And we see if anyone gives a shit. Because if they don't, we've just saved ourselves hundreds of thousands of dollars.
yeah,
Right?
right,
That's what I always think of. Hey, does anyone care? Have we asked anyone if they care? No? Why? You're afraid nobody's going to care. Of course, all of us are afraid that nobody's going to care. But if we don't know if they're going to care, let's test first before we spend the next 18 months and all of our friendships down a rabbit hole, because our energy is too valuable.
And you see, that's what I don't understand how to conceptualize, like what you like the thought process that you just did. Like I need to,
Yes,
better learn how to think that way.
that is the Google Venture Design Sprint. The Google Venture Design Sprint is a 5-day process that tries to end the endless debate cycles that happen with projects, especially software projects, and in 5 days develop a useful and usable prototype that you test with 5 end users on the 5th day. And because we know that no product survives first contact with the end user, we're trying to optimize for learning, not necessarily just, let's go viral on the first thing. Because we know as soon as we show this to someone, they're going to be like, hey, I hate it. I love it. I hate it, but I would love it if. Right?
Yeah.
And then I would ask them, all right, so like if I could give you a link to this, is it something that you would put on your phone and check every morning before you bought NFTs? And if the answer is no, or if the answer is yes, but I use these tools, then I'd be like, okay, so I've just optimized for learning. It's a different approach because it involves failing forward.
Okay. Yeah, but that's better. That's far fucking better.
Yes, exactly. Because we're living in a space where the input process output relationships are probabilistic at best, right?
Right.
You're not just going to show someone something and every 100 people out of 100 people are going to be like, I love it. So since we're dealing with a probabilistic space, I need to make experiments and test hypotheses because I don't want to build a house of cards because I've been involved in card house building and it's not fun. And everyone ends up being enemies at the end because, everyone starts pointing fingers at each other. How come you didn't see this risk? How come you didn't see that threat? Yeah. That was me in 2016.
Oh, God.
Right. And it took me, and the thing is, I needed to go through that so I could understand the processes involved and put them in the right order. But I had to fail first. Be like, there's a natural friction between software development and user experience. Good to know. I should do user experience and prototyping before I ever touch code. Good to know. It's not easy to do that, but I'd rather know.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I go look that up, will I find like a chart or something that might help me kind of try to do the exercise in terms of how to think like that? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I'll write something up that explains
you don't
it.
have to do that. Just if you happen to know of a link.
No, it's useful. It's the initial link is www.gv.com/sprint book by Jake Knapp called Sprint. And this is how they built Airbnb and a bunch of other products. Like literally Airbnb.
GB is in boy, right?
I put it to the
Oh,
top.
there it is. Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Isn't that funny? I'm still like, let me write this down on my paper.
No, believe me, I have 2 pads of paper right beside me.
It's embarrassing.
So if I don't write things down, I find that there are some things that I can type, but when it comes to mapping things, that is what I use my hand and my,
Yeah, index cards rule.
Yeah, I need to get more.
I just have I have 2 books. I have like a one large book and then this little 10 by 14 centimeter, 5-inch by 5-inch little pad.
Yeah, and each book has a different kind of level of observation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And depending on whether you're right-handed or left-handed, where they end up in the work area, right? But it's so handy just to have it, and then as you go through and you go, oh, geez, I actually saw that really early on. Yeah, it's part of that like dance and rhythm, cognitive stuff that they do with kids now, where they try to get neural patterning in into the kid's brain, matching with some sort of physical activity like tapping their chest or their forehead or something for mathematical equations and understanding. It's a little bit like memorizing, but it is a little bit more full spectrum.
So I haven't asked you this in a while, Mike. What AI art maker do you think is the best and the most interesting?
Uh, I've had the opportunity to see work by Peter that he hasn't published yet, and I think if you saw what he has coming out next, it'll make everything he's done before look like um, sticks and stones.
Hmm.
Um,
What
yeah.
program is he using that's public record, if any?
For the thing that Mike's talking about, I use Disco Diffusion. At the moment,
Oh,
I'm using Disco Diffusion.
yeah. Don't worry, I'll never be you because I suck. But I was just curious because this is the other thing. I mean, we have the knowledge base here. Why would I use like Wombo if that's not going to give me the best chance of having some sort of success? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you have to decide exactly why you're dipping in, right?
Because I'm a huge whore. That's why.
Well, bend over, baby.
Know thyself. Who is that? Aristotle?
I'm totally kidding.
What I like about Wombo is the ability to just give and get, give and get, give and get in the course of the day, and you start learning something in the process. Whereas other ones, they take a little bit longer, and there's all these parameters and flippers and toggle
Right.
shit.
And I love Wombo, by the way. Love it.
So let's look at this idea, for example, Sandra, that you have,
Okay.
right? And I'll walk you. So let me ask you this: what is the outcome or the end result?
Everybody in the syndicate makes a little bit of bar money.
Okay, so we're looking for bar money, and what time frame?
Yesterday.
Okay, so we want to do it within 24 to 72 hours, right? Max. Okay, so we're doing this for bar money because we enjoy hops. Let's say hops driven development. I like it. Um, let me ask you that again. So, what is the outcome that you see in your head?
I like to see something that might be, I don't want to say newsletter because that sounds so old fashioned,
Mhm.
but it would be a newsletter that would be updated on a regular basis that people could refer to when determining whether to buy an NFT as a business decision or to use as collateral.
NFT purchases, collateral. Now, let me ask you this: um,
Or
who?
arbitrage. I'm sorry. I think the most
Yeah.
likely, would be flipping.
Okay. Arbitrage. Yeah. Now, let me ask you this: who are you building this because it's something that you've always wanted for yourself?
Uh,
Is it something that you
yes
would
and no.
personally do?
I would use it if it worked because I know from past experience in other fields it can make a tremendous amount of money if it's made correctly and it's reliable. Over time, if there's a ranking system that can be established or exists that I can refer to, then I can create something that's reliable and stable to be used.
Mm, okay. So what we're trying to do is create an oracle for the future value of NFTs.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
But not
So
ones that don't exist yet. I'm talking about things that are already like projects that currently are out there.
um,
It could be used to perhaps speculate like, okay, well, if someone comes up with cat NFTs, those are more likely to be popular than dog NFTs. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that, I
yeah.
guess you could use it
No,
like
it's
that.
good. So now that we know what the outcome is, what would the rewards be from doing this besides bar money?
Well, if I was using it to do arbitrage,
Okay.
and depending, you could grow your money over time that way. Start out small, and actually by, probably within 6 months, have enough money to really start making like a difference in your life.
Okay. So let me ask you this: like, what would the champagne moment be? You wake up one morning. It's Wednesday now because 72 hours. You open up your phone and you order that bottle of champagne. What has just happened, such that you're ready to break out the champagne?
I can pay the rent on my humble
Okay.
abode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. So, um, how would other people benefit from this?
They too could maybe pay the rent or on their humble abode. uh, they would hopefully, it would be split amongst whoever was involved, and hopefully they would make a nice
Sure.
chunk change. I don't know what that chunk
Okay.
of change would be, but
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
it's
let
like
me ask you this.
for art, right?
Well, let me ask you this now. So, how might we fail? I'll write the first one. We'll fail if we don't develop a prototype within 72 hours, right? How else might we fail? We quit,
right, it
right?
it doesn't work because there's
Doesn't work.
not enough data to
Well,
analyze.
doesn't work could be like maybe we set the wrong KPI. So, for example, when I think of Zach, Zach says you're either doing a reconnaissance, offense, or defense. Are we doing reconnaissance, offense, or defense?
Well,
What are we optimizing for?
I'll put it this way, we were one of the first to actually scrape Amazon for this sort of information, and we ran into all sorts of problems and that we had to program around or trick to scrape
Yes.
all this
Okay,
information.
so
Yeah,
that's reconnaissance, right?
yeah.
Yes. To me, this is reconnaissance,
Okay.
right? And what we're doing is optimizing for learning, right? How might we fail? We don't learn,
Right.
right? Nobody cares.
Right.
The design is shit, right? There's all these reasons how we might fail. Um, okay, so let me ask you this. If it's true that we will fail if we don't develop a prototype in 72 hours, for us to succeed, what do we have to do? Well, build a prototype within 72 hours, right?
That's
If
my problem.
Oh no, we're going to do it right now.
Oh,
I already have Wix set up to do this. Remember, I did that website yesterday for the fake NFT launch,
yes, I remember. Yeah.
right? So I'm just going to say again.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah, all right. So we've already kind of created it. And by the way, like Jeff is a whiz with Python. So if we ever want to do this with code, like that's Jeff is a Swiss Army knife of reality. Um, so we've already outlined how might we fail, right? If you're around IT people long enough, you'll hear them using how might we, because among IT people, they found that how might we is the best way to ask a question in a constructive way. So we know how might we fail, and therefore, for us to succeed, what has to be true? Okay, so if we know we might fail by not building a prototype within 72 hours that we test with 5 end users, then we have to build and test. Build and test at the very least. We have to not quit. We have to make sure we're setting the right key performance indicators, right? So given that we're in reconnaissance, right, we want to optimize for learning, whatever that might be. I'm not trying to be too specific here. And we could fail by nobody caring, right?
Yeah.
And there's all the possibility that that might happen. How might we succeed? Therefore, is no. We may consider. I won't spend too much time on it now. Is how have they succeeded? Right, which is when you look at other markets, you ask yourself, okay, well, how did these other people who built something similar succeed? So here's a question for you: what are other curation platforms that are out there for this. So, for example, Rareable. You've heard of that before?
Yeah.
Rareable.com, right? So, Rareable, that's one. What's another one?
Oh, I said open seas. Yeah.
OpenSea. What's
Oh,
another one?
it's on the tip of my tongue. Darn it.
How about Tezos?
Right. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. So, that's another how might we fail? We don't niche down, right? We have
Right.
to we have to niche down. Who is
Oh,
our target
foundation.
market? Best places, best NFTs to buy in 2022. That's business to community. The top 10 NFTs you can buy right now. Best NFT projects in 2022. Oh, CoinMarketCap has the top NFT collections listed by volume, which means that we could potentially use CoinMarketCap as an oracle.
Hey,
Oh,
I'm gonna
reminding me
Mhm.
of an app that I was already part of called Uto, I think it was. I'll have to look. I still have it, but it basically formed a like a consortium of artists, and then market rated them, and so their traction was based on their rating. Let me dip and see if I can find that.
it's interesting when she said that. That made me think of. I want to say it's like Lunastar or there's a influencer like ranking system that will kind of look over like how many people actually like interact with an influencer and um I'll have to find a name. I don't know if it would be of any
Well, way back in the day, there used to be this thing called clout with a K,
that's right, yeah.
right?
There's also Luna Crush.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, it was you that's yeah. But that's
I'll,
a
in-
different. But yeah, that could be used. I mean, what do you think, Mike?
I'll introduce my friend here, John. Just
Oh, hi
Hey,
John.
he
John.
just came up
Hi
just to say
Tinsley.
Hey,
hi.
how's it
Hi.
And
going?
then, yeah. So we're
Good,
just
good morning.
thinking out some stuff, working some stuff out. Do you want
No
to
problem.
contribute? You can.
Oh, okay. I'm
And
listening.
so,
If I have, we talking about NFTs today.
well,
Well,
you can listen in and then see. Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
the question right now, John, have you ever purchased an NFT before?
Yes, I do. Yes, I have.
Would you consider purchasing an NFT again?
Uh, Not at the moment. I
Not at the
think
moment.
NFTs have died down right now.
Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
I think there's crypto space and NFT space move so fast. People are not patient enough to let something sink in and appreciate in price. So that's
Mm.
a trend I see. So it doesn't take a hold. So I'm thinking there's something new is gonna come up. I don't
Mm.
know if it's gonna
Right.
be on the NFTs, but I do hold some. I still have some that I myself I forgot all about them, and I bought them with my hard-earned money, and
Yeah.
now I don't even care. I don't even log in. I bought a couple of special ones from Walt Disney on Beeve
Oh, wow.
Live, and they're there, and haven't even checked see how much they're worth anymore. So that's you see, I'm part of the problem as well. I forgot all about it. So
Hmm.
that's the thing with the crypto and the NFT space. It moves so fast, you know. And since it's full of scammers and people to try to get money fast, they push a lot of things, and then there's not enough time in the day to keep up with everything. I believe that. I might be wrong. I'm 99% of the time wrong. So this is
Yes. If anything, if there's one thing that brings us together,
That's a
it's our
good
history
man.
of
That's a
bad
good
decisions.
man.
Yeah. Features. So I'm looking at existing companies now that are doing this. So they're looking at who is the organization that created it? What is the price point historically? What are the additional features? And do they have any celebrity supporters?
So that's something that already exists. And
again, there's a lot of things that exist, but again, when you look at the iPhone won not on technology, but on user experience and interface. And interface is yet hypothetical. Interface is the number one thing that causes companies to fail that are digital.
And I can make something that solves John's problem, and will show him, like a 5-year-old, that a particular project over time, which means that over time issue is going to get around scammers. Because over time, if it's a scam, it's not going to even be in the algorithm for this. It's just going to be a program. It's going to be like WorthPoint or an antique program where it's like, oh, I want to look up my 1908 sheet music that's in perfect condition. So I just enter it, and it'll, the program will bring up condition, highest price, lowest price, roughly a date, and it'll show a graph over time of the price of the item moving up and down. Like you can get that on Amazon right now. It's called Camel. You can actually put in the price of, like, I don't know. I'm looking around my apartment here. A Samsung TV, model XYZ. You can actually throw that into Camel. It will tell you over the last year when it was at its highest cost, lowest cost, when's the best time to buy it. And with other products, it can do that even further out. So, that would be my aim, to just simply have a very simple interface, and the user can make it as complicated as they want. If they want to look at more time, less time, if they want to be more forgiving in terms of the price structure of it, they can adjust all of that. So that would solve John's problem of him being like, well, I don't know what's good over time because there's so many scams. No, just stick it in this engine, and if the project has been around for a reasonable amount of time, it's going to be able to hopefully pop out a result, and it'll give you the information that you can decide, you know what, this is a value, because I know that over the course of the last, year and a half, this thing has gone up and down like X amount of times. And right now it's down. And if I sell it when it's, buy low, sell high, everything works on the same principle. So I'm assuming that NFTs, if they're going to continue to, be mainstream, this is going to be something that is going to stabilize over time and have a value that goes up and down over time. Just like my mom's Fenton glassware that she collected for 30 years, or, Oreo cookie figurines, or, anything, you know what I mean? Like, there's a value for all this stuff.
Yeah, Beanie Babies.
Oh, yeah. There's still a lot of money.
Yeah, my neighbor gave me a couple of Beanie Babies. She's like this garage sale lady. And, of course, I gave them, and they had the tags on, but I gave them to my granddaughters, like she said. Well, it turns out they were worth like $2,000 and $3,000 a piece.
Oh no! And of course, the minute a tag gets bent, it's like,
oh, they had goobers immediately, total goobered up.
That's terrible. Oh well. Better luck next time.
So does it all stay digital? I mean, because this is the thing. It's like, John here just said how much he was, into NFTs and stuff, and then he just bought the last ones were these like cool Disney ones. Like I have art hanging up in my wall. It's all individual pieces, things like that. It's like what you just spoke, the Beanie Babies, all that. It's like, but digital, like, how do you get back to it? Like, how do I appreciate my digital piece that I have there, right? Whatever it is, like, whether, like, when do I look at it? When do I appreciate it?
I think that something had to happen, some horrible news or good news about certain projects to come back to life. Other than that, I think
It's
a lot
supply and
of
demand,
risks.
like
Yeah.
anything else, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Supply.
I'm looking at it as arbitrage. Like I'm looking at it not.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, and that's what I'm wondering. It's like, it does. Things do collect. It will collect, but then it's like to hold it, like digital can get lost so easily. That's.
Yeah, how many times have you guys gotten lost because you've got a browser window open to some kind of Google photo repository that, connects you with some place, maybe 8 years ago, and you go, oh yeah, 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 and you get lost in there, and it's kind of like going through the little skulls of your kills. You know,
Yeah, I see your
like
I
point.
like that,
Predator.
Mel. I like
Yeah.
that, Mel, because it is like that. It does seem that way, like a little walk through that part that we
Yeah,
didn't see
it's
for a
like
while.
it's
But
like the Joni
but
Mitchell song.
for example, like Sotheby's and Christie's, and there's art databases out there. Like if I buy a piece of art, it's going to hang in my house or be in storage for years, and then it's going to be it's going to resurface, and the provenance is going to follow that. So maybe that's the way, maybe for that. But I mean, this potentially, depending on the size of the NFT project and the volume that it's pushing over a period of a year, I mean, that could be helpful. But you're right, there are, I'm ignorant of sales volume and size of an NFT project and how that will factor into like a news, like a newsletter email type thing, where, or just a site where people can go put in their information on, it's a subscription, so they put in their NFT project or something they're looking into buying to determine from past history whether or not it's a project that is going to be worthwhile for them to buy as a flip, or for other reasons, maybe for getting a loan against it someday. Who knows? But that's the general sense. Am I making sense? Is that?
Yeah,
It makes.
100%.
And if I can say something real quick,
Yeah.
you might check out NFT in it. It sounds
Okay.
very, very similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah, I figured there's stuff already out there.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah. NFT
And
in it.
there's a platform that you could already loan out your NFT and get crypto for it. It's like a collateral. You get 50% of what's worth, and if you don't pay back, they keep your NFT. I forgot the name of the web
Wow,
of the.
it's like a pawn shop.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of such, what Sandra was saying about like real pieces of art and dust collecting and, the bubble wrap and all that crap, the storage fees. And the wonderful thing about NFTs in the form of being able to be rendered large is that people who are involved in gig cultures who move around, they don't want to collect art necessarily. They want to collect experiences, but they have aesthetics. They want to decorate their hamster cage just like anybody else, but they're going to tend to do it from some image that they can have from a wallet, rather than have it collect dirt and dust and be a problem and have to be conveyed or stored.
Digital frames that you could show up your NFTs in your house.
Oh, digital frames, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
I
you could just
imagine.
go
I
go
imagine
whole
seeing
ham.
your. Oh,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
what were you saying though? I was just gonna walk through the images I had in my head, but that's okay. Go ahead, Casey.
Not for nothing, that VV app is an especially interesting platform as a case example. They're not NFTs, they're termed digital assets, non-removable from the system. So they're not on chain, but you still have Disney, Coca-Cola, Marvel, like really, or DC, big names backing that.
It's like
Like,
having an old Mac, right, that can't really connect to the internet, but it's got a really, really, really good playlist,
But it
right?
dies.
Well,
That's what's
you know what?
happened to me.
You
All my
can hook it up to some decent speakers and have it play, and not tax your memory for rendering or anything like that. And after a while, it gets nostalgic. And really, are you going to take a memory stick over to it and put some new stuff in there? Probably not. But you know, as you're packing your stuff or sticking it in the tub of other useless things like old lacy drives and whatever you feel like you need to hold on to for a while.